To start off the forum today, I'd like to have Corey Blake say a prayer to watch over us this afternoon. Corey?
If you would bow your heads with me. Heavenly Father, we just come before you this afternoon. We give you all the honor, all the glory, and all of the praise, for you alone are worthy. We thank you, Father God, for this great country that we live in. We thank you that we have the ability to be here and gather and put our opinions out there, Father God. Father, we pray over every single person holding an office and those you are calling to an office, Lord. We pray, Father God, that the responsibilities you put in their hands, Lord, that you will lead them to steward them well and with wisdom. We pray, Father, that they do not lean on their own understanding, but in all their ways, they acknowledge you and you set their path straight. We pray for each candidate coming up here to speak this morning, Lord. I pray that you give them a clear mind, a clear heart, and a clear voice. In your name we pray. Amen.
At this time, I'd like to have the chairman of the Winnebago GOP start us off with the pledge.
All right, please rise. And the flag is behind me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Thank you. All right. First, I'd like to welcome all the participants, the audience members. I'd like to thank Calvary Chapel for hosting today, and I would also like to thank the Winnebago GOP for sponsoring today's candidate forum. I would also like, and part of our GOP committee is our communications committee, so I would like to recognize them. Abigail Rosanas, Carl Rosanas, Jason Hoyt, Andrew Gilby, and Wendy Awano unfortunately could not make it today, and myself. We're going to start today by showing some video clips of the governor candidates that are running for office, followed by some remarks by the running mate to Governor Mendrick, Dr. Robert Renteria. And so we will start that. Carl, would you like to start the videos, please?
People often ask, why leave my farm, a place that I love so much, to run for governor? Well, the answer is simple. Because working families across Illinois are struggling. People can't afford gas in their cars. They can't afford groceries on their tables. They can't afford their electric bills. Property taxes keep climbing, and Springfield keeps adding tax after tax. Friends, I'm running because we've all had enough of the nonsense. I know there is hope for Illinois, and I know that we can do better. As your governor, I'll fight to lower taxes and put the people of Illinois first. We'll restore our economy with good-paying jobs. We will repeal the Safety Act, and we'll stand with law enforcement to make our communities safe again. We'll create opportunities so that our students can build their futures right here at home. Life in Illinois must be better, and it can be. Friends, I want to introduce you to my running mate, Aaron Delmar. He is a fighter who can help unite our party and our state.
I'm Aaron Delmar, and I'm teaming up with Darren Bailey to stand with you as we take Illinois back. Working families across our state need someone fighting for them, fighting to lower taxes, cut electric bills, demand safer communities, and bring opportunities close to home. Together, we're building a ticket that can win in the North and in the South, in the city and in the country. A ticket that fights for you and doesn't apologize.
Together, with your support, we will win in 2026 and restore hope and opportunity to our state.
Hello, my name is Ted Dabrowski, and I'm running for governor because in Illinois, we can do better. And I know we can do better because I've seen the opportunities this state can provide. My own parents immigrated to Chicago in 1960. My father escaped communist Poland, and my mother left Ecuador as a 19-year-old. They met on the L, and they began weaving their version of the American dream right here in Illinois, and they achieved it. Their sacrifices allowed me to make my way through college, earn an MBA from Wharton, and embark on a successful international career at Citibank. I gained an even deeper appreciation for America as a young banker in Mexico, where I helped that country innovate and expand its financial markets to more fully integrate into the global economy. I then moved to Eastern Europe, where for 9 years I helped a post-Soviet Poland reform its economy, raise its standard of living, and expand opportunity. Today, Poland has become one of the world's most dynamic countries because they restored individual freedom, resurrected the private sector, and tore down the barriers to entrepreneurship. I'm proud to have played a role in Poland's transformation. It's amazing how the right policies turned what was the poorest country in Europe into an economic powerhouse. Fast forward to today. For more than 15 years, I've been championing pro-freedom, pro-growth reforms for Illinois, a state headed in the wrong direction.
The chance of getting prosecuted is very low. Even if you do get busted, you're back on the streets pretty quickly.
And they can't read, they can't do math at grade level. That's a failure of the system, and it can't continue to operate that way.
Tons of money's being spent and the results aren't there. The first thing I think that needs to happen is we need to acknowledge the problem, because we can't fix the problem if we don't acknowledge it.
Illinois has become an extreme national outlier in taxation and quality of life because of the poor policies imposed by our politicians. And that's why I'm running for governor. I know that if we make the right policy choices, we can improve the lives of Illinois families dramatically and quickly. If we can find the political will to change, we can do better. My running mate, Dr. Carrie Mendoza, shares a similar story. She is the granddaughter of immigrants, including a grandfather who escaped the Bolshevik Revolution.
And they came to Illinois and Chicago because they knew it was a place of opportunity.
Carrie has been an emergency room physician for 25 years. She became active politically when she saw politics corrupting medicine and worsening the quality of care for her patients.
The changes in medicine over the past 25 years have really focused on an increasing bloated bureaucracy that's really gotten in between patients and physicians. And that has really weakened the quality of care.
She's also a mom who has 3 kids in college and wants them to make Illinois their home.
Ted and I want to work towards making sure Illinois is a place that everyone wants to stay.
And that's why Carrie and I are in this race. We can do better, and frankly, we have to do better if both our children and yours are going to continue to call Illinois home.
Windy City, Chicago, leading the country now in homicides for the 13th year in a row.
Costs of everyday essentials like groceries and gas are climbing while wages are remaining largely stagnant.
Caterpillar is moving to Texas.
Boeing is expected to move its corporate headquarters to Virginia.
Last year, test scores showed only 6 out of every 100 black K-12 students in Chicago public schools could do math at grade level.
Look, a great majority of Illinoisans believe our state is on the wrong track. Unfortunately, they're right. But that's because we have political leadership that is dishonest with Illinoisans about where we are and where we should be. Governor J.B. Pritzker says Illinois is a jobs magnet, yet he's created virtually no new private sector jobs since he took office. In fact, Illinois has suffered the 5th worst job growth and the 4th worst economic growth in the country. We can do better. The governor touts the billions of dollars he's poured into schools. But to what end? Just 1/3 of Illinois children can read and do math at grade level on national tests. And SAT math scores have fallen every single year under Governor Pritzker. We can do better. Governor Pritzker says Illinois' population is growing, yet census data shows Illinois has lost more than 100,000 people in the last 4 years alone. We can do better. Governor Pritzker likes to talk tough.
You come for my people. You come through me.
Just who are his people? He spent billions of our dollars on people here illegally, while black Chicagoans struggle with the highest rate of poverty and unemployment among America's biggest cities. We can do better for you, our people. When Governor Pritzker can no longer misdirect Illinoisans, he likes to make excuses for his administration's dismal results. It's Washington or Trump or tariffs, he says.
All they're offering is chaos and craziness.
But every state in the nation, red and blue, is operating under the same conditions. And yet, it's Illinois that consistently ranks at the bottom of every economic, financial, and demographic statistic that matters. The fact is, Governor Pritzker's policies have made Illinois less safe, less affordable, less educated, less prosperous, and overall, a less desirable place to live. It's time to vote for change. As your governor, I promise I will work tirelessly to put everyday Illinois first. Our path will be difficult, but if we unite, we can change the direction of Illinois. Because we know what works. Together we can and will do better.
There are a few people who do not desire a taste of the American dream, but some people's passion to gain everything is motivated by the very real fear of having nothing at all.
I grew up with my mother and my brother. My mom got divorced when I was 1 year old and my brother was 2. My mom was a housekeeper maid and a hostess. Throughout our whole lives, you know, my mom had only, by the time I was 16 years old, she had only made like $100 a week. Growing up that way really instilled a passion in me to, all I wanted to do was take care of my mother. All I ever dreamed about doing was taking care of my wife and my kids. My goal was to be successful so I didn't have to see anyone suffer the way that she did and we did.
Having experienced hardship and struggle at such an early age, while most children were doing homework and playing games after school, Ricky and his big brother were already working.
My brother and I started working like at 7, 8 years old. One thing we would do is we'd clean the apartment building that we lived in, and my mom would get a little bit of money off the rent. We also had 4 paper routes, 2 before school, 2 after. We just tried to save as much as we could and help my mother as much as we could. When I was 11 years old, we moved to King Arthur Apartments. And my brother and I, we became maintenance people, you know, cutting the lawn, cleaning the basements, changing the light bulbs, painting the rails, sweeping the parking lots. We would work over 2,000 hours a year, even at 11, 12, 13 years old. You know, 20, 25 hours during school year, you know, 60, 65 hours during the summer. But the goal was to make 2,000 hours at least so we could make $3,000 each a year.
Learning how to work hard from an early age, it didn't take Ricky long to realize he would rather own a business than simply work for one.
My mother was very proud and really wouldn't take anything from anyone. My uncles had businesses. One, they were in the auction business, and my brother and I would help them all the time. When I was 16 and a half years old, one thing they did was buy a big furniture store in Ogden, Oakley, and Roosevelt. Because I had helped them so much, I asked them if I could have 10% of that. They let me have 10% of it. And it included part of the building. We did that for about 1.5 years, and then we had to sell the store. My aunt and my mother weren't very comfortable with the work I was doing, so we ended up selling the store.
But having gotten a taste of ownership, Ricky's business ventures with his uncles were far from over.
My uncle signed for a loan for me for $10,000 at the bank. You know, I would drive to the bank every single month for 24 months, and I would hand the payment to the lady that gave me the loan. She'd say, "Rick, you don't have to come here and give it to me, you can mail it." I said, no, I want you to see that I'm paying. Then after the 2 years, I paid her off. The same period of time, I saved $200 a week for 2 years. So I had $20-something thousand, $20,800 in a savings account. And I said, now can I borrow $100,000?
And with that $100,000, Ricky would make millions, investing in everything from grocery stores to real estate. He built up 270 buildings in 13 states, and most notably, his enterprise in the gaming industry.
So in the state of Illinois, they legalized gaming, and they've broken it down to four ways that you can be in the business: a manufacturer, a distributor, a terminal operator, that's what I am, and an establishment. I'm the 3rd largest terminal operator in Illinois. The company's called Gold Rush Gaming. It's basically a slot machine like you would see in Las Vegas. We put them in restaurants and bars and gaming cafes. Started with 1 location in October of 2012. We built the company to, again, the 3rd largest. This morning we had 641 locations up and running, 3,572 machines, without buying any other companies since the first day that we installed in 2012.
With his success motivated by the fear of loss he experienced as a child, Ricky has a message to those working hard to achieve the American dream.
I see my mother sitting in a chair, you know, after working 12 hours, and crying because, you know, the muffler fell off of her car and it was $95 to put it back, you know, to get a new one. And there was just nowhere to find that $95. All I wanted to do is get out of that school and run to work. There was no baseball. There was nothing. I mean, there was just work. There was no girlfriends. There was just work. I never really cared about myself. If I dropped dead working, as long as my wife and my kids were taken care of, it meant nothing to me. And, you know, they want you. So it's not all work. It's family. It's time. You have to have balance. You just absolutely have to have balance, because if you don't have balance, the price is too high. There's a better way to do it than the way I did it.
Illinois wastes billions of dollars every year, and everybody knows it. Medicaid fraud, no bid contracts, grant programs with no outcomes, NGOs that exist only because they are politically connected. This is not accidental. It is tolerated. As governor, I will conduct a comprehensive forensic audit of state agencies, grant programs, and taxpayer-funded nonprofits. If a program cannot prove it delivers real results, it will not continue to receive your taxpayer dollars. Accountability will no longer be optional. Government exists to serve the people, not protect itself. Thank you, James Mendrick, running for Illinois governor. God bless.
Thank you all for watching that. At this time, I'd like to call up to the stage Dr. Robert Renteria, who is the running mate for James Mendrick. He drove here today from Aurora, and he'd like to share some of their vision for Illinois. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My background was very dysfunctional. My father was a heroin addict and an alcoholic. He left our family when I was only 3 years old, and the only legacy he left us was a pile of bills and a bunch of empty bottles of booze in the trash can. My mother made $1.20 an hour. When I was 6 years old, I had a terrible accident, almost died. I had to go to school for the physically disabled and the mentally challenged because I could not walk, talk, or read or write. At the age of 9, my mother remarries, and the nightmare starts all over again. She marries an abusive drunk. And he used to beat on her and beat on me till I was black on blue. And there were times that he left my mother bloody and battered. When I got old enough, I ran away and I found a new dysfunctional family called gangs. And I made a bad drug deal one day and I almost lost my life. They put the gun to my head. The guy said, "Say goodnight." He pulled the trigger twice. By the grace of God, it was a misfire. So I gave my life to Christ, found myself going back to church. I had quit school, so I went back to school, got my GED, and I made the best decision of my life. I joined the military. I spent 7 years as a U.S. Army airborne veteran, non-commissioned officer, traveling all over the world, jumping out of helicopters and airplanes, learning about duty on our country. So when I got out in 1990, I came here to Chicagoland with $200 in a duffel bag. And I slept on my friend's floor in his one-bedroom apartment. And all I could afford to eat back then was those Arby's sandwiches, 5 for $5. You remember those? And I'd have half of one on a Monday morning, half of one on a Monday night, make the sandwiches last throughout the week, drank a lot of water, lost a lot of weight, but I said, I'm gonna beat somebody. And I got a job in the commercial laundromat industry. If you see laundromats around, that was me, that's the business I was in, selling washers and dryers. But I worked hard every day, every holiday, every weekend for 5 years. I didn't see my mom because she's from California for 5 years. But I got recruited and became vice president of a publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange. So I climbed the broken ladder of corporate America for 5 years, and I was having dinner one night and said, I want to take a shot. And I didn't mean like a shot at tequila, brandy, or bourbon. I said, I'm going to take a shot and start my own business. And I started my own business, and after 3 years, we became the #1 distribution company in the United States. And I thought I had everything I ever wanted. Because as a child, I slept on a smelly mattress on a concrete floor in a musty basement, to having a house on a pond. Having to walk everywhere or take a bus or ride a bike, I had a Mercedes-Benz. And I share that with you not to impress you, but to empower you, because I learned the 2 greatest days in your life are the day you're born and the day you realize why you're born. So in 2006, I left my business to take a blind leap of faith to serve a higher purpose. And I became an author. And I wrote a trilogy of books, curriculum for schools that we donate at no cost, curriculum for the ministries and churches at no cost so we can get our kids into Bible study, leading to Christ, so our kids can see the promised land. So for the last 20 years, we've scaled to over 25 countries around the world. And what I want to do is take my life and help now going forward with Lieutenant Governor and Governor Sheriff Mendrick to address what's called public safety. Because of what I'm hearing from the kids in Chicago, which is 13 years the most violent city in the entire country, is that a kid tells me that it's easier to buy a stolen gun than it is to buy a book. Or when our children have to learn how to dodge bullets before they learn how to read, we have a problem. And when our children have to hide under a desk in fear of their life, or they're texting their mom and dad, please, I don't want to die, come get me, and they're dialing 911 because there's a crazy man in the hallway shooting our children, we have a problem. So because I do come from the streets, right, and you might be asking, well, what does doctor mean? I'm not a medical doctor, right? Doctor for me means disciple of Christ. So I'm going to help our kids to understand that gang banging and violence is not a lifestyle, but a death style. And the ultimate weapon is not a loaded gun, but an educated mind. And because I'm really big on anti-violence prevention over intervention, and I do come from a gang background, I'm going to teach our kids and our men that there's no excuse for putting your hands on a woman. You never put your hands on a woman because women aren't just beautiful and smart, but because women are the greatest gifts that God ever created in this lifetime. Ladies, am I right? Am I right? Can one of the gentlemen give me an amen? Okay, so public safety is really, really important to me for personal reasons, right? Nobody should have to bury a child. We all agree on that. Okay, secondly, I'm really big on education. I built an educational program because we have a dysfunctional educational system, right? It's fractured. They're teaching to test, not teaching to learn. They're graduating our kids with the 6th or 7th or 8th grade reading level, and they're passing them on with a 96 to 100% graduation rate. Why are they doing that? It's because they're chasing dead presidents. If they don't graduate these kids, they don't get their funding. So we have to hold the schools to a higher standard, right? And make sure that the people who are responsible for educating our kids, if they don't reach that benchmark, we're going to have to let people go. See, this is America, ladies and gentlemen. If we fix problems, people lose their jobs. So we have to get to the root of the problem and take away all this rhetoric of unions, contracts, and paychecks and actually fix the problems. So I'm going to pledge to you today, as running as your Lieutenant Governor and Governor Sheriff Jim Mendrick, who he has 30 years in law enforcement. I have 20 years as a public servant. That's 50 years combined that nobody on this ticket or any ticket in the United States can say they've been public serving our communities for 50 years. That I personally will make sure that we put both God and the flag of the United States of America back into our classrooms. 2, I will fight to eradicate the indoctrination of the pornography that is poisoning our little kids in schools, right? And get rid of that whole mess that's poisoning our children. 3, because I am big on public safety, I pledge to you as a former military man and a law enforcement man with Sheriff Mendrick, they will fight to protect all of you against all enemies, ladies and gentlemen, against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I have a lot of experience that I bring to the table. Workforce development. I was in the laundromat business. You can find me at washbroker.com. I still do consulting work for that. We've put hundreds of people into business and created thousands of jobs over the last 35 years. So we want to put people back to work. And from a philanthropic standpoint, to see the body of work I've dedicated my last 20 years to helping children, please look up at fromthebarrio.com. I'm not going to make promises of what I'm going to do on day one. I'm going to tell you we're already going to do the work. We've been doing the work. We'll continue to do the work. And the program that I built for our kids, just so you know, I've invested about $400,000 in the last 20 years because I care about our children's future. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dr. Robert Renteria. I'm running to be your Lieutenant Governor. And for the record, I would be your first Mexican-American Lieutenant Governor in the history of Illinois. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was awesome. Okay, now we're going to get started with our 17th congressional candidates. I'd like to have Dillan Vancil and Julie Bickelhaupt come to the stage to start answering some questions. welcome you. I'd like to introduce our moderators for today. Jason Hoyt has more than 2 decades of grassroots political activism and national elections, working on local campaigns and issues. Jason is an author, a speaker, a veteran of grassroots politics, and I am very proud to call him my friend. Jason will be available in the back after the forum to talk to you about one of the books he has written, I Believe in Freedom, How to Talk to Your Family and Friends About Liberty. Please welcome Jason Hoyt. Corey Blake is a radio DJ at 88.3 WFEN. She is the Lighthouse, Rockford's only full-power live and local Christian radio station covering 12 counties. Additionally, she is an accomplished entrepreneur, a digital creative, and has a passion for marketing. We really want to thank Corey for being here today and helping us with our questions. So thank you, Corey. Jason, I think you're going to start with giving us some introductions as far as how the format is going to proceed.
Yes, all right. Thank you everyone for being here. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for those watching online as well. Thank you to the amazing volunteers that made today possible. And thank you especially to those that have submitted questions. We received many of them. I think we have 80 of them to go through today. I think maybe we won't get through all of them, but our teams narrowed them down to the questions we're going to go through today to reflect the concerns of the Republican voters in Illinois' 17th Congressional District. Before we begin, though, I want to sharpen our focus for just a moment. We're all Republicans here, and while today's forum helps us decide who to support in the March primary, we cannot forget the larger mission. This district is currently represented by Eric Sorensen, as we all know. And many believe that his morals, principles, and voting record do not accurately reflect the values of the people of this district. So our larger objective, of course, is November. And so the purpose of today is simple: to determine who will we send into the general election to win this seat back. You guys agree with that? Yeah. Often candidates are asked to pledge unity after a primary, but today I want to direct that call to each of us here. I may have a favorite, you may have already decided, or you may be still evaluating. But personally, I commit to fully support whoever wins the primary. If Julie wins, I'm in. If Dillan wins, I'm in. And I will work tirelessly to get my family, friends, neighbors, and coworkers to volunteer to help defeat Eric Sorensen in November. So to begin the forum today, my first question is actually for the audience. Will you also commit to supporting the Republican nominee, to doing the work necessary by volunteering so we win in November? Good.
Thank you again for being here. Let me briefly walk through the format for today's forum. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for an opening statement. After that, we'll move into a series of questions with 2 minutes allotted for each response. We'll keep track of time. When there are 15 seconds, you'll hear this bell. Won't get that annoying, we promise. To wrap up your answers. At the end of the forum, each candidate will have 3 minutes for closing remarks to make the case for why they are best suited to defeat Eric Sorensen in the November election. If additional questions come to mind during the forum, please feel free to write them down. Both candidates will be available after the event to meet with you and answer questions at their tables in the back of the room. Before we begin today, we conducted a coin toss to determine who would go first. Julie won the toss. So with that, Julie, please introduce yourself to the audience and tell us why you would like to represent the people of Illinois' 17th Congressional District and what from your life or career best positions you to do so. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Julie Bickelhaupt. Kathy almost had it right. It's hard to say, I get it. I say, think of a pickle that hopped and then make a B. You'll never forget that. So running for the Illinois 17th Congressional District, I am a 7th-generation farmer. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a business owner, and I'm a community leader. So with all of those things, and especially the community leading position, it really led me to want to run for this, knowing and understanding from a federal, state, and local level the dysfunction that happens throughout that. From my side, my seat, I was seeing Eric Sorensen trying to serve our district, and was no reflection of who I am and a lot of you are. He goes far left. He doesn't understand the table issues that a lot of us feel and we struggle with. And I knew I could best represent them. Being a real live blue-collar worker right here in the district, I knew I could do that. That is what led me to be that voice. So as I said, I'm a farmer, 7th generation farmer. I grew up on a farm in Bond County, which is south of here. So lived there my whole life. Moved up here. I've been here 27 years farming. Took on farming a little larger as I had children because I wanted to be able to raise my children. I didn't want to send them off to school. So my husband's an insurance agent. We run that business. We run a farm, and we picked up acres, bought acres, rented more acres so that I could stay home and farm and run after my kids, coach ball, do whatever I had to in order to be part of their life. So that is, I do anything from plant to combine to drive the semi. If it needs done, I know how to do it. So that's where I have spent 80% of my time. I have 2 young boys that are back from school, and they're going to take some of that on for me. And that allows me this opportunity to serve the community even more than I have been at a county level. Like I said, a few of the issues that I have concerns with are cost of living. Obviously energy costs are out of control. We need to find policy to bear down on that and unleash American energy. The Green New Deal is the Green New Scam. We have really lost our empowerment, and now we're taking it from other states when we could do it right here in Illinois. Also, healthcare, we need an overhaul. I'm just going to keep that short. I'm sure we'll talk about that here today. And school choice and parents being empowered with their children. How do we make sure that parents get to choose for the kids what they think's best, not what a school thinks is best? So along with that, I'm sure we'll talk about that some more. Obviously, live in this district, want to represent this district, and if Eric Sorensen can be voted on and qualified, I've got way more experience than he does. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Julie. Dillan, please do the same. You have 3 minutes.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Dillan Vancil. It's crazy to think standing up here now. There's a lot of familiar faces that I've seen over the last year of campaigning. But just a little bit about me. Small business owner, husband, father. I've sat on my local school board for several years now. Jumped into that and got involved during the COVID days. I've got my 7 and 9-year-old boys. It was their first years of school. So that's really what got me ignited to get more involved with politics and what's going on there. I couldn't send my kids to school wearing a mask for their first years of school. We're dealing with that problem now, even at 7 and 9 years old. My 9-year-old has some speech issues from having to deal with just being around people that wore masks. He couldn't understand, when somebody moves their lips, what they were saying and what the comprehension was. My business, my experience in small business, I own coffee shops all throughout southeast Iowa and west central Illinois. We just opened up our 7th location this year. We have 4 more in the works for 2026. I'm excited to keep that going. I employ 65 young adults that are all 17 to 25 that are worried about the same things. Affordability. They're all at the age where they want to move out of mom and dad's house, but they can't afford to do so. Electricity bills have gone sky high. Health insurance is out of control. We have to get some of that reeled back in. Now, what I want to do my first day when I get into Congress, I want to introduce something. Right now, the standard deduction before you start paying taxes is $17,000. I want to move that to $25,000 as soon as I get in there, introduce that. Because one, that gives us a boost in our economy to get people up and going again. But also, the average payment for Social Security is about $2,000 a month, give or take. So that first $24,000 covers a lot of our seniors on Social Security that won't have to pay any taxes. So I'm going to go up here today and I want to discuss options and how we're actually going to fix what's broken in our government. I appreciate you guys all bearing the frigid cold weather. I'm glad you guys didn't turn into popsicles the last couple days. Look forward to chatting with you guys all. Thank you.
Okay, for the first question, it will go to Dillan this time. Let's start with an issue top of mind for families across the 17th District, manufacturing jobs and our local economy. As you've traveled the district, you've likely heard again and again the concern about jobs leaving our communities and the need to bring good paying opportunities back. So what role do you believe Congress should play in revitalizing manufacturing and supporting long-term economic growth right here in our region? 2 minutes.
Yeah. So again, bear with me, guys. I woke up with a little bit of a cold today. So we have to bring manufacturing back into Illinois. And really what that comes down to is we have to fire J.B. Pritzker this November. We have to. The tax structure here in Illinois, with Trump's $18 trillion worth of investments that's coming to America, do you think any of it's coming to Illinois with our current tax structure and the regulations we have? Absolutely not. So we have to get rid of JB. And Eric and JB are cut from the same cloth. I was just out in DC and I met with a small business group that's nationwide. He has a 0% voting record with small business. We have to get real representation in the 17th. And traveling throughout the district, I was in Knox County and I'd worked with the economic development group there when we brought our coffee shop to the county. And he said, we will never see another major manufacturer come to Knox County because, one, we don't have the housing for them, but two, we don't even have the electricity to provide to housing developments or any manufacturers. We have to get coal, natural gas, and our nuclear mini reactors. We have to start looking at those options and getting those fired up. I seen a report yesterday that showed 33% of our power comes from coal, 33% from natural gas. Nuclear is about 11%, but solar and wind didn't even make the radar. And J.B. Pritzker wants to keep subsidizing those issues, raising our electricity bills. We have to get that under control, and that is step one of getting manufacturers to come back to Illinois. Well, we got to get rid of J.B. first, so number two. But that is what I would work on day one to bring in manufacturing.
Very good, thank you. Julie, same question. Sure. What role should Congress play in bringing back manufacturing jobs and strengthening the economy across the 17th District?
So clearly, much industry has left Illinois, but much industry has left the United States. From a congressional level, the things that we could do some of them are already happening. President Trump has created some fairness in tariffs. That has equalized some of that ability. For years and years, we have allowed industry to leave our country with unfair tariffs. Tariffs are an interesting topic. Some people are for and against, but you cannot deny that the fact that we've had uneven tariffs for such a long time has created a loss of industry and manufacturing within the United States. That being said, Illinois has its own problems. J.B. Pritzker is chasing industry. He's chasing people with money out of the state. He's taxing them to death, and absolutely have to get rid of J.B., step one. But there's many things we can do, and we can help industry grow. We can help small industry rev back up here in the U.S. and in Illinois by supporting those smaller industries and building them back up. And we do have some industry, and we don't need to lose them. We have John Deere, and we have a lot of agriculture industry within this district, and we need to keep them here. It's integral to this district and the people that live it. A lot of people are supported by that. So we need to keep working toward that, and hopefully these tariffs that we're looking at will help make that adjustment to keeping and bringing industry back into the United States.
All right, the ding means you have 15 seconds. You don't have to stop when I ding. It's just okay. All right, Julie, we're going to start with you for this next question. Let's turn to crime and public safety, which is a major concern in Rockford and across the district. With violent crime among the highest in the Midwest, what would your approach be to making our communities safer? Should Congress play a role, such as funding law enforcement or anti-gang efforts, or is that best left to the states?
So I would say in general, that should be a state-run situation. That's who should be taking care of that and funding our police and taking care of our safety within our state. However, we have a governor that's not been doing that. He's not been standing up for the rights and the safety of ourselves and our children, and that's a problem. Under that scenario, I did have someone ask me at some point, do you accept, how do you feel about ICE coming in and the National Guard coming in? And my thought is, if our governor isn't going to do the job he was put in office to do to protect his citizens, then if President Trump needs to send that in, then I think that's great. We need to make sure that our families are safe, that areas that we like to go into, like Chicago, are safe, and it's an injustice by J.B. Pritzker to do that. So first step would be, yes, that should be state handled. When the state can't do it or won't do it and fails us, then the federal law does have to come in. It's national security.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, first we have to get this illegal immigration under control. And I bring it back because this week we were supposed to go to a court hearing for a lady here in Rockford, 78 years old, who was beaten and raped by a Venezuelan illegal immigrant. We have to get that part of it under control. And I am 100% supportive of ICE coming in and doing the job that JB has neglected to do. Now, I seen a report the other day that showed, I believe it was, and correct me if I'm wrong, one of the governor guys, but I thought I seen a report that showed 1,600 law enforcement is what Chicago is short. They're short 1,600 police officers in Chicago. Now, I'm sure here in Rockford, we're probably not in the same boat, but probably have quite a few openings that need to be filled. We have to fully fund our law enforcement. And look at what we've done to these guys over the last 4 to 6 years. I mean, while Biden was in office, all we did was defund the police. We're throwing bricks and stones and everything else at them. Who in their right mind right now would want to go out and be a law enforcement officer? Every time you go up to, whether it's somebody speeding that was 6 miles an hour over, or they had a tail light out, every time you walk up to that window, is it going to be the last time that you're able to go home and see your family? We have to support our law enforcement and be behind them 100%. You've got somebody like Eric Sorensen who wants to go on social media and say, F the police, your murderer might wear a badge. He doesn't support law enforcement at all. And JB is in that same boat. We have to have real representation here in Illinois. Now, on a federal level, I agree, it is a lot of state funding, but we have to do everything we can on a federal level to get immigration under control. And if they're short 1,600 law enforcement officers in Chicago, we might have to bring in more federal agents to be able to take care of that. So that is what we need to do on the federal level. Thank you.
This next question we have written down is immigration and border security, which obviously ties into that. But Dillan, you're first on this one. Immigration and border security remains top concerns for voters, especially with the surge in the last administration of illegal crossings and the deadly flow of fentanyl impacting communities here in Illinois. What would you do in Congress to secure the border, reform our immigration system, and especially respond to the states or local officials that defy federal immigration enforcement through so-called sanctuary policies?
Yeah, so first off, we can't build the southern border fast enough. We have to get the border secure with the wall. Now, I know that's been a conflict going back and forth. Trump bought all the materials needed. Biden sold them off for pennies on the dollar, so we have to start all over. But that has to get done. Biden administration, and the numbers are all different anywhere from 12 million to 20 million. They can't keep track of the money they're wasting in Minnesota. You think they know how many illegals actually came across the border? They don't. But we have to get that under control. And ICE, like I said before, and it does tie together, but I am behind ICE 100%. If you look at Bill Clinton deported around 12 million illegal aliens. Barack Obama, I think, was 5 or 6 million deportations. Biden was 4.5 million deportations. Trump hasn't even gotten to 1 million yet, and look at all the trouble he's facing. We have to send all these people back. We have to. Now, I do agree that there are people in this country that have come in the right way, that are hardworking, and I think we need to open the availability for that a little bit more. There are people that are just hardworking, looking to support their family and want to try the American dream. We have to open a little bit of that up. But yeah, I guess that would be what I do for illegal immigration. Sorry. Kathy, could you grab me a Kleenex? Thank you.
Julie, please, same question.
All right, at a congressional level, what we really need to do to work with immigration and the border is what we're already doing it. We've slowed down that path of illegal immigrants into this country. And even though the left wants to bring a scenario of it's these families and children, there are cartels and drug lords and rapists and killers coming across that border. And those are the people who, at this point, we are trying to remove with ICE. It's important that we secure that because, as I said before, a secure border is national security. And we need to make sure that we secure that and that we can share that with the safety of the residents of the United States. Too long this has gone on, and it's been fought against. We need to, as a congressional base, continue to have those services and make sure that we are stopping that border. There are reasons for immigration laws. There's a process for immigration laws, and we should use those appropriately. The reason for those rules, once again, national security. So as we move into that, making sure that we hold true to those rules and regulations in holding the border, unlike the prior administration and Biden. There was a reason for that. They wanted those sanctuary cities. They want to take over Illinois and California, and this is their way to do it. We need to stop it, we need to secure our borders, and we need to protect our citizens. Thank you.
All right, question number 4. Agriculture is a cornerstone of our district's economy, from family farms to large-scale agribusiness. If elected, what policies would you pursue in Congress to support our farmers and rural communities? Would you push for changes to the Farm Bill, trade policy, or federal regulations affecting agriculture? Julie, you're gonna go first.
Thank you. So being a farmer, living in the middle of that economy and having to deal with manufacturing through that, buying, purchasing commodities, I have a firm grasp on that. I feel that the best thing we can do is continue to work with people who understand agriculture to build policy. To answer all the questions to each of those steps and each of those things is hard to say. But the Farm Bill has to be structured and finished. We continue to get a skinny Farm Bill. A skinny Farm Bill basically says we're going to slide these things through, and it really hasn't changed since 2018. There's some qualities in not losing things, but we're also not having a full process that would help benefit the success of farmers and manufacturers. And this district, District 17, is very much surrounded by agriculture economy. It is the base of the 17th. And even though you may not farm, and you might not be that less than 2% who actually farm, you are surrounded by agriculture. And it's in manufacturing, it's in jobs, it's in hospital jobs, because all of those run together. And without agriculture and a failed agriculture system, our 17 fails to have the economic power it currently does. So protecting that, working with policy, working through what those details are, and making sure we have a solid, beneficial Farm Bill would be where I would move into as in Congress, and would hope to be on the Ag Committee. So I think that would be the best thing for farming and agriculture, and I think we can do a lot at the congressional level.
So the first thing we have to do when it comes to ag industry and the farms, family farms, we have to get rid of the death tax. These farmers and these 7th and 6th, 5th generation farmers, they're not being able to pass it down to the next generation because they inherit the death tax that they have to deal with. We also have to there hasn't been a decent farm bill passed in 7 or 8 years now. And it's funny, I've traveled the district, had several different ag roundtables, and I always tell these guys, if Eric Sorensen comes to your farm, the first thing I want you to do is pull out your camera. I want you to hand him the key to the nearest tractor, and I want you to see if he can start it, and I want you to film it, because chances are he probably can't. So we have to get that. The fact that Eric Sorensen's even on the ag committee is mind-boggling to me. He went about lying about the weather for 20 years, and now he's, either way. So a big thing I want to work on, and I've got friends that are in that industry, they're looking to get into the 3rd and 4th generation, and they have programs where it's kind of a first-time farm purchase, where you can go through and receive, it'd be lower interest rate loan to get your farm up and going. Now there is maximums to that. I don't know for sure, but I know it's under $1 million for their purchase. Well, I don't know how many acres you can buy for $1 million anymore. This farm ground's going from $15,000 to $23,000 an acre. I don't understand that. So we have to raise those limits to help our next generation farmers continue to thrive. Also, I know it was a big deal right across the river into Iowa. There was OCI fertilizers that sold out to Koch brothers. Now, in the fertilizer market, or chemical market, there is 3 major manufacturers of those products. They continue to keep becoming bigger and bigger, which prices out a lot of our farmers, and there's no competition left. We have to stop allowing that to happen.
Question number 5. Parents across our district are concerned about school quality, curriculum, and the rollback of school choice in Illinois. Do you support expanding school choice or other education reforms? And what role, if any, should Congress play in shaping education policy, including the protection of homeschooling, which is traditionally handled at the state and local level?
Yeah, so the first thing we have to do with education, we have to cut the Department of Education on a federal level. That is $280 billion a year that is just wasted. 84% of it goes back into just managing itself. If we were to get rid of that department and we were able to send those funds directly to the schools so they could hire teachers at a livable wage, we could take care of better curriculum. As a school board member for the last 5 years, the curriculum is the biggest thing that we deal with. Now, we have to deal with a lot of the nonsense that Illinois pushes down, but we don't have any of the DEI, any of the woke nonsense that a lot of these schools are having to deal with. Fortunately, we're in a rural district, and our school board is mostly, it's 6 out of 7 conservative. So we've been able to combat a lot of those. But we have to be able to get funding to the schools. JB continues to ditch our funding and cut funding for our schools. Unfortunately, in my area, I am all for school choice and having those options. In my area, and a lot of the areas in the 17th, what other option do you have? So we need to make sure that the schools that we do have are taken care of appropriately, but we also need to open it up in areas like Rockford or Peoria, Rock Island or Bloomington, that they have the option to go where the schools best fit them. And that I support that 100%.
So education is an important issue to me. This was a situation where my kids were in public school. Our school was having some failing issues. We went to the school, we tried to work with the school. How do we fix this problem? I mean, we're landowners here in the county. How do my tax dollars are going to the school. I want my kids to be able to go here. I want it to be a strong school that really prepares them. They couldn't help us. So I got frustrated. We homeschooled with a couple other families for a year. Absolutely enjoyed homeschooling. It was a great process. I wish we had done a little earlier, honestly. That being said, our oldest kids were going into high school, and I wasn't ready to relearn calculus. So I said, they had played some sports at a Christian school about 20 minutes away. So that's what we did, and that was a great experience too. But what it taught me and what it told me was that different experiences fit different people. Different kids need different things, and parents should be able to choose that. Within the state of Illinois, yes, it should be an Illinois-run institution education. However, Illinois does a bad job. Not only do they do a bad job, now they're lowering the standards at which our kids have to be. So they're dumbing down our kids, and that's not okay. At a federal level, what can we do? Currently, we have a tax credit option that people can use to have for a write-off for taxes. They can go put that money into this grant fund, and they can choose to do that for a tax break. Right now, though, Governor Pritzker is choosing not to participate in that plan. And even though I can put money in, no kids in Illinois can draw any money out if Pritzker doesn't allow that to go through. And at a county board level, we just voted to put on the referendum the option to ask Pritzker to use that piece of that toolbox. So we have asked him to do that. Other counties have as well, but that's something we can do at the federal level. We'll just see if the state jumps on board or not. Thank you.
Question 6. Illinois has adopted aggressive clean energy mandates, but many residents, especially in rural areas, are concerned about rising energy costs. Do you support the state's approach, and what would you do in Congress to ensure affordable, reliable energy for our district? Should federal policy take a different path on renewables, fossil fuels, or infrastructure?
Sure. So obviously, Biden really pushed through the Green New Deal. I think it's the green scam. As someone who owns farmland, it breaks my heart to see solar panels and windmills go up across highly productive, tillable ground. Do I think there is an option where solar could be a supporting energy? Sure. But we don't need to take out productive land, and we don't need to think we're going to count on that to produce for our state or our country. Now, obviously, at a federal level, President Trump ratcheted that back, and he said, we don't think that's actually working. In the state of Illinois, with Pritzker, he's decided to leech onto that and hang on to it, which is why you see things continue to happen. And from what I've heard at a federal level, probably there's some funding if things have started that's going to go through 27. Like I said, I believe it could be a supplemental piece to our energy needs, but we really need to unleash our energy in America. And honestly, in Illinois, we have some of the cleanest burning coal. And we're right now pulling in energy from other states who have dirtier coal. So what are we doing? We're still using that energy, we're still doing that, and yet we're not benefiting from it at the Illinois level. So, continuing to, I think, move away from that and only use it when it actually makes logical sense. There's no science behind the Green New Deal. I think they probably argue that, but clearly it's not doing its service, and we're lacking in the energy amounts that it can produce to really fill those needs.
So first, we have to stop believing that wind and solar is the answer. It is not. And we have to cut, the subsidizing wind and solar has to come to an end. My business isn't subsidized, why should theirs? We have to get these coal plants fired back up. Now, Ameren, I believe they had 3 different coal facilities that have been shut down in recent years because by 2035, Pritzker wants to have majority of it be renewable. That will never work, and we will see blackouts before that happens. I spoke to an individual that's been involved with coal for over 30 years, and he said chances are by 2028, on the path that we're on now, we will have blackouts in the state of Illinois. And he is set up in the Chicagoland area with some of the manufacturers, major manufacturers up there. They've actually asked them to reduce capacity so they can get power to the rest of the state. We have to get our coal plants fired back up. We have to invest more in natural gas and nuclear. That is the only way we're going to be able to bring manufacturing, bring jobs back here into Illinois. And on the federal level, we have to be supportive of that. We have to get rid of the subsidies for the wind and solar and incentivize people to get those coal plants, natural gas, and nuclear going.
Okay, question number 7. Illinois has one of the highest tax burdens in the nation, and over 400,000 residents have left in recent years looking for relief. While state taxes are set in Springfield, would you support any federal measures to ease that burden? How would you use your role in Congress to help keep families and businesses in Illinois? Dillan, you're first.
Oh, sorry. So the first thing I would do, like I said in my opening remarks, we have to get the minimum taxable wage from $17,000 to $25,000. So your first $25,000 as a single person or $50,000 as a married couple, there's no tax paid on that at all. That will help stimulate our economy. It takes care of our seniors that are receiving Social Security. They won't have to pay taxes on that for the most part. That is a big, it'll boost the economy so much and get people back up and going again. Everybody is just sick and tired of being taxed to death. You know, and as I've grown from 1 coffee shop to 2 to now 7, every step that I've taken along the way, there's just more regulation and tax that has to be paid and dealt with along the way. We have to give American people a break and quit taking so much money. Look at what I would imagine if you came from what they're doing up in Minneapolis with that $9 billion plus worth of fraud that you find there, I guarantee it's just as bad, if not double, in Chicago. We have to get a lot of this spending, wasteful spending, waste, fraud, and abuse out of our systems.
So when we talk about our tax issues, they are straight out of Illinois. When you start to look at a federal level, I feel like we're doing quite a bit of what we can do there. The no tax on tips, the no tax on overtime. President Trump and Congress has already worked on this in the big, beautiful bill to help alleviate some of that in states. They can't override Illinois. The bad choices that Illinois and Pritzker make and tax us to death, whether it's real estate, whether it's any other tax that is put on fuel or purchases, those are Illinois problems. We can continue to have resources at that federal level, but honestly, there's not a lot we can do till we get Pritzker out of here. We have to change that over. We have to figure out how do we correct the things that have been done. Hopefully there's ways out of that, but really at a federal level at this point, we're doing what we can do. And even though, like I said, tax on tips, the tax on overtime has been taken out of the federal tax system, in Illinois, guess what? You're still getting taxed if you get those wages. So that's unfair. But honestly, at a federal level, there's not much you can do about it. So looking for ways to build more tax incentives is great, but that will be throughout the country. So Illinois will always be at a deficit as long as Pritzker is in office. Thank you.
Question number 8. Since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, Illinois has become a hub for abortion access in the Midwest. Do you believe Congress should take action on abortion, such as setting national limits or protections, or should this issue be left entirely to the state? And how would you represent the values of this district when it comes to the life and the health of mothers and the unborn? Julie.
Okay, on abortion, clearly this is something that ends up at its state level being judged on. We can't, probably at a federal level, totally say we override you at a state level, but the fact that Roe versus Wade was overturned and set a new precedent for what the ideology behind abortion and its legalness, it set a new precedence. So that is a good thing. Like she was said, they will continue to do that in Illinois. And Illinois has definitely become a hub for abortions for other states that are more conservative and are more in line with Roe versus Wade. We need to really figure out how we get a more conservative governor in place and more conservative representatives and senators to best represent us. That's where we have to start. But it's definitely a state issue. We can only do so much once again at a congressional level. I'm very thankful for that overturning. I think we're headed in the right direction there, and we can continue to improve programs that help people, even when there's exceptions, choose to keep that baby, not have abortion, and fill some homes of people who want to adopt. That's the important thing. I think there's options there, and maybe at a congressional level, we could help fund some of those programs. But like I said, it's in the hands of the state, and our state is pretty far left. Thank you.
So I am pro-life 100%, and I think it belongs with the states to make those decisions. But I also think on a federal level, we need to do a better job of supporting mothers that maybe don't know what the best path is. I spent some time with a lady in Peoria that owns Peoria Women's Health Center, and they go through the whole process and let the mothers know that we get that you're scared and don't exactly know what to do, but here are some options. Here's a support group to help you, and I think we need to help more of those care centers than we need to worry about funding more Planned Parenthoods or any of that. I'm glad all the funding's been cut off for that. I support, like I said, pro-life 100%.
Question number 9, Illinois recently passed new restrictions on the ownership of certain types of firearms and magazines, etc., raising serious concerns among gun owners and their Second Amendment protections. What is your stance on the right to self-defense and gun control? Should Congress act to protect gun rights, for example, through national concealed carry reciprocity? Or should firearm policy be left to the states?
So I support the Second Amendment wholeheartedly. Proud dad this year. My 9-year-old shot his first deer, first shotgun season. So that was quite the moment for us. The video, dad's way more excited than my boy is, but it was good. Like I said, I support the Second Amendment wholeheartedly. Now, I don't think we need to have tanks rolling up and down the street by any means, so there's some common sense to that. But like in Illinois now, they're trying to take away everything that we have when it comes to the Second Amendment. So that, again, we have to get rid of JB. But on the federal level, I think we could be some more supportive on conceal and carry. Now, I spent 5 years in South Dakota, and when I went there, I paid $10. They did a background check, and I had my conceal and carry within 3 days when the card came in the mail. When I left South Dakota, it was good in Iowa, but it was not good in Illinois. And now you have to take a 2-day course, go through the whole thing, which I'm not opposed to some training. You should know how to safely operate a firearm if you're going to carry one with you. But in Illinois, we have to stop taking away guns from the good people, because how do you stop a bad guy with a gun? Typically a good guy with a gun.
Our constitutional right of the Second Amendment says we have the right to keep and bear arms. I believe in that wholeheartedly. Actually, interesting story, I was just at a gun auction this morning. A local gentleman who has an auction house. They're actually having a gun raffle today. And I got to speak to that group, and we got to talk about the Second Amendment and how important that is. Taking away that right from citizens is a disaster. And that is not what the Constitution meant to happen when it was created. They did that because they knew anarchy can happen. And they want to make sure as citizens, the same thing did not happen to them when they got here in the United States that happened to them before they came. That was why. And when you start trying to peck away at what's okay and what's not, you really walk a fine line that's scary. Because who gets to pick? Why do they get to pick? What are the regulations behind those? We have to have common sense, and we have to look at the Constitution for our guidance, and it says that we have that right, and I wholeheartedly grab onto that. I have a FOID card, I am an NRA member, and I possess guns myself. I feel as an independent person, you have the right to do that, and you have the right to protect yourself. And I wholeheartedly back that, and will make sure that that is upheld within the Constitution.
Question 10. Families across our district are feeling the squeeze of high inflation. Many are simply trying to keep up with rising prices. If elected, what steps would you take in Congress to help lower the cost of living? Would you focus on reducing federal spending, addressing energy costs, or other measures to ease the burden on working families?
All of those. All of those. Clearly, right now we're working with DOGE to try to eliminate some costs that should have never happened. When I start to think, and I've often said this, running a business myself, why would you run government that way? I would never run a business that way. If I was in the red, I would be done. Why can a county, a state, federal government run that way? There is no reasoning for it, and there should be no exception for it. And the reason we keep having more and more inflation is because we just keep printing more money. The more money we print, inflation goes up. We're creating a hole that we just can't get out of. I do believe some of the DOGE we've been working with and eliminating some of that fraud and abuse has been huge. Look how long we've been doing that. Look what that does to our deficit to get that back. I think that's important, and through energy cost, I think we can help that. And as I talked before on energy, when energy cost is high, if we can fix that, it fixes a domino effect. When energy's high, trucking's high, because you've got fuel. When energy's high and trucking's fuel, food's high. Got to haul food, you've got to have power within the plants to run those. Guess what? That gets passed on to the consumer. If we can slow down energy costs, we can slow down all of those costs, and we can slow down inflation. So I think it's important to be reasonable, think business-like, and continue to find ways to cut the budget, not feed more into it.
What would you do in Congress to lower the cost of living and ease inflation's impact on families across our district?
So inflation was rampant over the COVID era and all the money that we printed. We have to, it really comes down to energy. Our energy prices have gone sky high, but not only that, but our healthcare premiums have gone sky high. And what happens when, I'm on Eagle View Community Health Board, and we have over 60 employees there. Well, when we opened up that third location, it put us over 50. So we had to provide health insurance to all staff. That is a huge expense on all of our employers. And what are they're not going to just absorb that cost. They're going to pass it on to the consumers. So it's a multi-tiered issue. If we can get our energy under control, our health insurance under control, that will help reduce the prices. Now, I don't think there's such a supply and demand issue as there used to be during COVID, but all of these big corporations, I haven't seen them lower too many prices since COVID ended and supplies went back up. When I put up my first coffee shop, it's a piece of plywood, basically. It has a FRP backing on it. That was $38 when I put up my first shop. My last shop recently, it's $76 a sheet. People just can't afford to continue on the same path. So we have to, like I said, get our energy under control, drill baby drill, which Trump has been doing. Our fuel prices are at the lowest they've been in 5 years now. We have to continue on that path, and I'm excited for what Trump's going to do over the next few years here.
Along those same lines, question 11, the national debt has soared past $38 trillion, and many are rightly worried about the burden we're passing on to the next generation. What kind of congressman would you be? Would you kick the can down the road like so many before you? Or would you take a stand for fiscal responsibility and push for a balanced budget? Where specifically would you cut or prioritize spending, and would you support raising the debt ceiling, and under what conditions?
So, and I'm going to talk about our tariffs first. So Trump's brought in, I don't know what, $200 billion worth of tariff money, and he had brought out, and you guys have all heard it on the news, that he wants to hand out stipend checks for the basically tariff checks. Now, selfishly, I want him to do it because I think it'll help us get some votes in the midterm. But at the end of the day, that has to go towards our national debt. Now, as a person, I grew up on Medicaid, SNAP benefits, all that. Those programs are essential, and there are people that absolutely have to have those programs. But if you're, like Trump's doing now, if you're an able-bodied male or female, and you're able to go to work, you need to go to work. I am all for helping people who are willing to help themselves, but we can't have these social programs continue to be a lifestyle or a career path. We have to incentivize people to get back to work.
Sure. With debt over $38 trillion, would you take a stand for fiscal responsibility, and what spending cuts or priorities would you support?
Okay, so as a county board chair, as a business owner, in both entities there, balanced budget, we have money in reserve. We're willing to have that in order to make sure those entities are running properly. The federal government should be no different. How we got in this position with this overspending and crazy programs that really have been misused and gone straight into fraud is beyond me. That's just bad politics right there. We need to work to fix that. Like I said, once again, before with DOGE, finding and eliminate those programs, putting that money back into that deficit, bringing it down. We need a plan in order to figure out how to peck away at it each year. I understand we can't fix it overnight. It's huge. What we do have to do is make responsible choices, run it more like a business, understand that that should not be such a deficit. That is a tragedy, and that also increases inflation if we want to go back to the question before. We need to bear down on this, fix it, find the things we can cut, and put those funds into that deficit and start to decrease it and be responsible, just like we're doing right in our county as a chair and in my businesses.
Question number 12. Healthcare costs remain a major concern for families across our district, especially in rural areas where access is limited and premiums are high. What changes would you push for in Congress to make healthcare more affordable and accessible? Do you support repealing, replacing, or reforming Obamacare, the so-called Affordable Act? And what's your broader vision for improving the system?
As far as I can tell, and I've talked to some doctors and nurse practitioners, and they're telling me this is a failing system. It doesn't work. It overworks doctors. It removes some of the connection between doctor and patient. They're not getting the services they need, and they're not able to use those resources properly. In my opinion, it's an overhaul. When it began, it was never going to work. When Obama started this program, it was destined to fail. And through these years, and then Trump it with them adding subsidies during COVID, and then never taking them away, it's continued to be a failure. The things we really need to do is a rebuild. Currently, right now, what our program is doing is feeding the pockets of insurance companies and feeding the pockets of pharmaceuticals. They are not serving the people who they're meant to serve. I do like, with some of the legislation that's going on right now and discussions being had, talking about an HSA for individuals where they receive that subsidy for an HSA, and they can use it how they want to use it instead of an insurance company telling them how they can use it. Do you want to be told how to use your money? Basically, we're sending our taxes in there, and they're telling us how to use it. If we have HSAs in place and some other programs that we can work with as patients, we can better be served because we get to make the choices, and we get to talk to our doctors, and they get to help us go in the right direction. That's been stripped away from us with the ACA plan, and I find it absolutely unacceptable.
So, and I think we all feel the same way. I am sick and tired of government just throwing money at something thinking that's going to solve the problem. Our healthcare system is broken. Now, I think Obamacare, it needs fixed. It does need an overhaul. But I read a report or seen a report this morning. So CVS owns Aetna Insurance. They own PBMs. They own, obviously, the pharmacies. They own their own physicians. And on top of that, they own their own bank. That has to come to an end. It is just one vertical integration in our health system has destroyed our health insurance in this company. We have to break those up. It is, like I said, it's crazy to me. My health insurance for my family went from $2,200 a month to $3,000 a month. I employ over 50 people, so I have to offer health insurance in Illinois. After I pay the required 25% of my employees' premiums, it's still $800 a month. They can't afford that at 18, 20 years old, 24. It's just not, it is not on a sustainable path. And how to fix it, we have to have transparency. When you go to any car dealership in the country, you know exactly how much they have that car listed for. When you go to the hospital and you're looking at getting blood work or something routinely done, you should know what they're going to charge you before you get there. Not some surprise bill after the fact, and then you have to fight with insurance on whether they want to pay it or not or deny it or not. We have to bust up big insurance companies because they own it all. And until we do, until we have a Congress that's willing to do that, we're going to continue to keep throwing money after bad problems.
Looking at the time, everyone doing good? We have about, 75 questions left. So, question number 13. Congress has a constitutional duty when it comes to matters of war and national defense, including the power to declare war and authorize military action. If elected, would you stand firm in ensuring that Congress has a voice before America engages in conflict abroad? What would your approach to be to foreign policy and national security, especially in the face of threats from adversaries like China, Russia, Iran, and terrorist organizations?
Okay. So Congress have to have a say in some of the things that go on. Now, I believe Trump, when he went into Venezuela and brought their leader out, I mean, Biden had a $25 million bounty on this guy for years and didn't do anything about it. So what Trump did there by getting rid of him, freeing the people of Venezuela, I am all for that and him making that decision and briefing Congress within the 48 or 72 hours. But I believe in anything larger scale than that, then Congress needs to have a say, and they need to be able to guide, at least have the conversation and the debate about it.
I agree. So this is something we're going to agree on today. And a lot of things probably, right? So obviously the Congress has the constitutional right to have a presence in these decisions. Some of the decisions to go into some countries, some of these blowing up ships because they're fentanyl and drugs are coming into our country, you can't talk about that. You can't present that. That also is national security issue, and we have a lot of issues out there that are covered by national security. A lot of the things that are going on nationally are to protect us from our enemies out there that would like to see us fail. So yes, there's reasons sometimes that some details aren't shared, but Congress does have to have a say in what's going on, especially when it comes to any sort of war type aggression going into or staying into other countries. But ideally, we want to take care of the U.S. And when they do have to go in, it's to protect us, it's to protect our securities, and it needs to be seen that way, not that we're protecting a country. In a lot of those situations, we're actually protecting our own national security by doing those things and making sure that it stays peaceful in those areas. So I do think that's important, but Congress needs to say in that. That being said, President Trump has made some moves. Pete Hegseth has made some moves that needed to be done in quiet, and I think that's okay too.
Question number 14. Our district is home to many veterans who have served this country with honor, and they deserve the same in return. What would you do in Congress to improve services for veterans, including health care, mental health support, job training, and cutting through the VA's backlog? Are there specific reforms you'd support to ensure the VA truly serves those who've served us?
So once again, from a county board level, we have a veterans VAC in our county. We deal with veterans who need support and health care through that office, and not every county has one, but we have a really good one. They do a great job at getting them there. Now, the hangups and the problems, I think we definitely have to protect and help our veterans. My father-in-law, who just passed away, was a veteran, and those are important things for a lot of those individuals. And they come to our VAC because they need help getting through that red tape that you're talking about. In our governmental processes, and it's in this, and it's in farming, and it's in a lot of things. It's in building houses. There's so much red tape. There's so many hoops to jump through. They've made it so complicated and costly that it can't be done easily. And people who might be suffering, for, say, in the VA programs and going into those hospitals, they may need service now, and they're so delayed that they might get there too late. By the time they get there, if they have a terminal illness or something like that, that disservice happens to them when the details go too slowly, and government moves slowly. I think in those programs, these are life and death situations. We need to make sure that we're cutting the red tape and we're making that an easy process, and that it's serving the people that it was meant to serve.
Now, go figure, we're talking about one more thing the government screwed up over the years. Our VA system, and I talk to people, my wife's grandfather was a veteran, and he actually had to go to Iowa City, was the closest VA that could handle what he was going through. And for him, it was a great service. He would go there, they would actually reimburse him back for his fuel, and he didn't have to worry about much. He was taken care of. Now, I've got another friend of mine that was in the military for 8 years. He is on VA, he's on disability, has to go to the VA for some of those issues. And there's been times where he's been denied service from the VA, and then he's stuck paying out of pocket to go somewhere else to get those issues taken care of. Again, it comes down to government mismanaging one more program that we have. So, and it has to have more oversight, more accountability within the VA to make sure that our veterans are getting the benefits that they deserve. I mean, he signed up to give the ultimate sacrifice for our country and fight for our freedoms. And instead, we're dumping billions of dollars into illegal immigrants that haven't been in the country for 3 days, but our veterans that fought for our country are suffering. Well, that has to change.
Question 15, many conservatives are deeply concerned that federal agencies like the DOJ, FBI, IRS have been politicized and used to target Americans for their beliefs, from parents at school board meetings to selective enforcement of the law. Do you share those concerns? And if so, what specific oversight or reforms, like bringing back DOJ, you guys mentioned that earlier, but what would you pursue in Congress to ensure that these agencies are held accountable and stay within their constitutional limits?
The same thing Trump did, put Kash Patel and Pam Bondi in charge. That is the greatest thing that's ever happened to those agencies. Those guys are doing what should have been done instead of what Biden did was, turn the FBI into a Chase Trump program or department. So I think that's headed in the right track. I think Kash Patel and Pam Bondi are doing a phenomenal job. I do think there needs to be some oversight with that altogether, but the direction it's headed now with under Trump and Kash and Pam, it's headed in the right direction. We have to continue with that.
So I believe that President Trump has this fairly under control now. We're not seeing these same sort of injustices happen that were happening in the Biden era, where people, like they say, were being arrested at school board meetings and for trying to protect their children, for being the ones that should be empowered for their children. The schools were thinking they should be able to take that away, and the police were taking that away, and the DOJ was taking that away, and then wanting to call them criminals. In the common sense Trump administration that we're in right now, we don't have to worry about that. What we have to worry about is if that ever changes, what happens? These programs, these administrations become so corrupt that we then suffer from that. I think under common sense leadership that believe in good values, we don't have a problem. I think when our government goes far left and shows corruption, these things start to happen. How do we fix that? We vote the right people in. We talk to our neighbors, and we make sure they understand those consequences. So I believe that's our best route, is we as constituents and people that vote have to drive that force and talk to people and say, these are things we have to make sure aren't happening, because it's scary. And people should be able to stand up for their children and take care of them and not think, am I going to be a criminal after this?
The First Amendment protects our God-given right to speak freely. Yet we've seen troubling reports of federal agencies pressuring big tech to silence certain voices, especially conservatives. Would you support investigations into this collusion, and what steps would you take in Congress to defend the free speech and hold those involved accountable?
Absolutely. In no way should social medias and larger corporations be able to silence people's words. This is a spot where we have the right to say what we want and choose to share our voice and our concerns. Do we have to agree all the time? Absolutely not. But we do need to be able to share our information, have conversations, and that's number one. Communication. People have lost that art. But being held down or being stopped from being able to share that because some social media or some company disagrees with your thought process is it's already illegal. How do we keep that from happening? How do we choose to make those companies pay for that? Exactly that. There should be fines involved. There should be some intel involved, research done there, and those companies need to pay for that, and they need to understand they can't do that. The Constitution reigns, and we need to follow that. And there has to be some justifications behind that when it's happening. Fines, that'd help our deficit right there. So anyway, there's got to be things we can do, and we need to take care of it, because once it starts, it's a trickle effect, and our voice continues to be taken away once we let that happen.
The greatest thing that has happened to our social media platforms over the last couple years was Elon Musk. Him taking over Twitter and all the nonsense that they were doing online during COVID and the misinformation and all the nonsense, him buying Twitter and giving conservatives a fair and equal platform to speak, which is now X, that was just the start. I mean, look at Zuckerberg and Trump's redoing the East Wing of the White House. Zuckerberg was happy to give him $200 million to ease what he's done over the years over with Trump. So we have to hold these guys accountable, and I'm a victim of it, and I think all of us are that are come out as Republicans on social media. My Facebook platform doesn't have the reach that it typically does. There's some of these left-wing individuals that their platforms explode, and there's no restrictions. But on our side, we have to deal with that still today. And I think Trump's getting that under control, and they're looking into it more, but we have to continue, because that is what they were doing on our social media during COVID and the 2020 election was wrong, and it cannot happen again.
Question 17. None of this matters if we can't trust our elections. From voting machines to mail-in ballots and voter ID, Americans deserve confidence that every legal vote counts and counts fairly. What role should Congress play in restoring trust? And would you support national standards like voter ID, ballot security, cleaning up the rolls, or getting rid of the machines altogether?
I would like the idea of going to a hand count again. The machines have, we have all heard of fraud instances all throughout different counties and even states. So we have to, and like I said, I'm all for getting rid of the machines. And I'm not necessarily opposed to having more than just single day or 1 day day of voting. I'm okay with a little bit of early voting. I worked for the railroad for 10 years, and it was hit or miss if I could make it to a polling location or if I was out of town. But we have to get rid of the mail-in ballots. When I go into the DMV and I require a driver's license or to get this, whatever it is, real ID with a star on it, I have to give them 14 pieces of mail. My firstborn, my thirdborn I don't have yet. But when you go and vote, you can just walk in and vote. It's wrong. And I think they're going to get the SAFE Act passed to where you have to provide ID to vote. We can't allow all these illegal immigrants that Biden flooded our country with to vote in this upcoming midterm or next presidential year. And I think they're going to get it handled, but that's what we have to do. We have to have real ID or an ID when you go vote. It's that simple.
So yeah, we need to clean up our voter rolls, obviously. I think small counties do this pretty well, or at least our county does, and they're very much on top of having those cleaned up. Counties that don't want to clean them up, don't clean them up. So that's something we really need to narrow down. We need to figure out who can actually be voting, who's still alive. Have we passed them on? There's all kinds of issues there. I think early voting's great. I do it most of the time. Just to get it, I'm in the courthouse, I stop in, I vote early. I think it's great. And I think we should encourage people to vote early. Get that done. You never know when on March 17th or November that you won't be available or there's some weather or whatever. So I do think we should do that. Currently, with mail-in voting, we have to use that resource and make sure people are mailing their votes back in. We have to be a part of that. If we didn't have mail-in voting, that would be okay by me. I think that has opened up a whole window to corruption in the system and definitely needs to go away. We have other options. You can vote early. The only exception should be military and if you maybe live out of state. Maybe that's an option, but it seems like it's absolutely out of control. Voting machines, obviously efficiency is voting machines, but apparently whoever builds those, I think there's some issues with them. And how can we be certain that there's not, especially when we go into administrations that want that corruption? So maybe counting votes again is the option. I think we need to look at all the possibilities, what's out there, or can we actually have a machine that is going to be truthful? I think that's where the issue comes in, not necessarily as a machine, but that the corruption behind it exists.
Speaking of voters, voters are tired of career politicians and insider deals. Many have suggested term limits for elected officials. What other reforms would you fight for to promote accountability, like banning post-Congress lobbying or requiring single subject bills?
Yes, there are definitely issues within congressional seats and holding those. Too many perks behind the door. Term limits would be fine by me. If I'm able to do this when I get to Congress, I want to serve to help the people, and I want to return eventually to farm. I like my life too, but I also know I need to do something in order to make sure it exists in 10 years from now. So, should someone be there forever? I don't think so. I wouldn't want to. But the point is we need to keep good people in office and we need to make sure that they're following the rules properly. We've been talking about trading and getting rid of that option to trade as a congressperson, senator, family member that's within the household. Probably is necessary. Obviously, there's a lot going on there. We need to really watch the ways that you can get behind the door and find extra cash, the lobbying that can go into someone's pocket, the initiatives that create things like the American Care Act, which, clearly when we're feeding insurance companies, the people voting for that are figuring out how to get money out of those companies, whether it's by campaign funds or some other way. We need to clean that up because when those things happen, we cannot have a real, true, honest system where people are doing the right things for the right reasons. There's always alternative motives when those things are happening, and we really need to figure out how to clean them up. I'm sure there's so many that we're not even thinking about right now, but let's fine-tune it and figure out where do we start and start pecking away. I think the insider trading is a good start.
So we have to get rid of the stock trading for Congress. And Congress, this is why nobody trusts our government. They go in making $174,000 a year, and then within 10 years, they're worth $30, $40, $100 million. I watched, I believe, well, look at Omar in Minnesota. She reported $30,000 on her reports, then 60, then I think it was 110, and all of a sudden it jumped to $30 million from 110 for her net worth. It's wrong and it's fraudulent. But I watched, I believe it was Rand Paul mentioned, Nancy Pelosi and her husband have made hundreds of millions of dollars on our labor and on the backs of Americans. And he said that she's not even in the top 10. And if you don't think Republicans are doing the same thing as Democrats, you're crazy. Because everybody is doing it. We have to get rid of stock trading for Congress. I signed the term limit pledge. I am all for term limits. I have businesses to run. I've got boys that my family I want to enjoy. This isn't a lifelong career for me. And honestly, getting in the political scene at this caliber this last year, I love public service and I love helping people, and that's what I've been called to do. Politics is the slimiest, scummiest thing I've ever been involved with in my entire life. I couldn't imagine somebody wanting to do this for 30, 40 years. It is insane. So I'm all for term limits. The president gets 8 years. I think Senate should be 12, and I think the House should be 8 as well, because they run in 6-year terms. But that's it. And get rid of stock trading and get rid of all the fraud.
All right, we're doing great. We have 2 questions left. As you travel the district and talk with voters, what has surprised you the most about what people don't know about Eric Sorensen? Whether it's his voting record, policy positions, or how he's represented this district in Congress. What has surprised you the most? Dylan.
Is it me? Mm-hmm. What surprised people the most? One, that he's on the Ag Committee. Also that he's on the, I believe it's the Armed Forces Committee. He's part of the, they put him on that because of the Rock Island Arsenal, to have him on there to help keep some votes. But also the fact that they had no idea that he is so far left that he is a huge proponent nationally on transitioning children under the age of 18. That is, Eric Sorensen is a social issue politician. And the fact that he has, the guy dresses up in drag and leads kids' drag parades. I don't care what you do when you're an adult. Don't push it on me or my kids, and we shouldn't have to pay for it. But leave the kids alone. They can't, and it's just, thank you, and it's common sense, but that is the biggest thing that they don't know about Sorensen, that he supports transitioning children, and he actually voted against, the bill was HB 28, which he voted against keeping boys out of girls' sports and locker rooms. A lot of people don't know that. We are going to shine light on that because it is a 90-10 issue nationwide.
So some of the things that I've noticed that people don't realize is that Eric Sorensen doesn't always show up to vote. He misses a lot of votes, and he's representing us, and he's failing to show up. He votes with the Democratic Party when he's told to vote how they want him to vote. He doesn't take into consideration what the 17th district needs and wants, even if those people may have voted for him. He's not even considering that, and he's voting the party way, not the district way, and that's a problem. We need to make sure that people understand that. Time and time again, I've heard stories from people, and they talk about, and I've experienced this actually through the county board and some issues we were having, called his office, why is this happening, where is this funding, how can I track it? I talked to one person once, and then I never heard anything again. I've heard resoundingly people say either they heard nothing at all, they went to DC to talk to him, and he wasn't there, staffers talked to him, or if he was there, they answered all the questions. He has no idea on any of the issues what's going on, and he doesn't care. He's been in there for going to be now 4 years. If he cared, he would have started to get it figured out. That's something people don't realize about Eric Sorensen. He's there for his dramatic parade that he likes to put on, the show he likes to have in front of the camera, but he does nothing.
All right, guys, you're doing great. Final question. Representing a moderate district means you'll need to serve people who don't always agree with you. What are your views on working with people across the aisle to get things done? Or where would you draw a hard line and stand firm on conservative principles?
Sure, yeah. So I consider myself a problem solver. I've went my whole life between raising kids, growing up on a farm, running a farm. You become a problem solver. You figure out what needs to be done, and then you figure out how to do it. So that is something I take seriously, and usually I'm probably in the lead when I don't necessarily need to be. I'm like, how do we fix this? How do we fix this? And I want to see that happening. With that, we have to, what was the question again? I was in the lead.
In a moderate district, where would you work
yes,
across
Thank
the
you.
aisle?
I'm like, I totally lost my train of thought. So what we really need to be able to do is communicate across the lines. I understand that I don't think the way everybody does, but we live in a world that we have 80-20 issues. Most of us believe 80% of the same thing or can pretty much align on it. The things that I morally believe, I will always stay in line with. Those are things that I can never divert from. But when it comes to cost of living and energies and everyday issues, I think we can all decide we agree on those things. How do we fix them? We need to look at each of those items, each of those problem-solving issues. How can we fix that? And then let's logically, with common sense, pick the one we think will work best. Is that always going to be the best thing? You don't know that. But once you've done your research and you've actually tried to find the best option, then at least you can move forward and think you're helping the most people at one time.
Give that to me one more time.
In a moderate district, where would you work across the aisle and where would you stand firm on core conservative principles?
So I'm not going to be pushed around. I have no intentions. I don't care about the title or the money. I am out there to work for you all and the generation to come. I've got 7 and 9-year-old boys at home that deserve a brighter path forward, and that is why I'm doing this. I am sick. Politics has become so polarizing. It is either D or R. At the end of the day, I don't care if it's red or blue. It is about you guys and the next generation. And I will not compromise on my values. I will not compromise on public safety, on increasing taxes. At the end of the day, we have to bring common sense back to DC, and that is what I will vote for every single time.
Excellent. Okay, it's time for closing statements. 3 minutes each, if you'd like. Dillan, you're first.
Yeah. So first, I want to thank you all for being here, for braving the cold. It has been brutal this last few days, and this has been a lengthy forum. We only lost a couple people. I'm not going to call you out, but again, thank you guys. And I'll be honest, when I first started this campaign over a year ago, first call I made was to Joe. I wanted to pick his brain and say, what did you learn over the district? What can we do as something different that we can really take and beat Eric Sorensen? And the response has been overwhelming. It's just bring back common sense. And when I first started, I'll be honest with you guys, I rode off Rockford. I thought it's the farthest away from my house. It's the longest drive. We haven't done that great up here. But I will say, when I started to come up here and spend some time and get to meet some of the individuals that are running the GOP and what their plans are to get out the vote, I was absolutely amazed at the momentum that they have and have carried throughout this last year. People are sick and tired of being taxed to death and dealing with red tape and health insurance. People are getting activated. And what we've also done throughout the district, with Jaden here, with Turning Point, we have been a part of or helped every Turning Point chapter on a college level that's come about in 17th. I met a lot of them when we were out in Arizona for Charlie Kirk's America Fest. What happened to him was wrong, and that has fired up millions of young adults that are getting to that voting age, that are fired up and going to do something about it this midterm and next presidential year. So, and with that, Rockford has been great. Joe, you've been a great supporter, and I appreciate your endorsement. Don Manzullo has been great, and I appreciate his support and his endorsement. I also have endorsements from several other conservative officials here in Winnebago County. We have a real movement up here. I look forward to, and I'll be honest with you guys, I'm gonna hold your feet to the fire a little bit, because I don't expect you to go out and knock doors when it's negative 25 degrees, but I do expect you as conservatives, if we really wanna win this seat, I want you to call everybody that you're friends with and get them out to vote. That is how we're gonna beat Sorensen, and it takes more than just a couple of us. It is gonna take every single one of us in this room to get it done. And I'll be honest, if you don't have the capability to call 5 or 10 friends to get them out to vote, do you really care about the 17th and where Illinois is heading in our federal government? It's time to get on board, guys. We have a long road ahead of us, but all of us, if we come together, we will get it accomplished this year, and we will fire Eric Sorensen.
To finish up here, I'd like to thank Winnebago County for taking this on and on such a cold day, and for everybody coming out. It was great to meet some of you that I hadn't met before, and I know I've met many of you. But this has been a great experience and a great forum to be equal and allowing us to talk on the issues. When you really come down to, and this is kind of what I was told the end was supposed to wrap up into, of why would you vote for me in the primary? Why me versus Dillan? I have a long understanding of leadership. I've spent time in government, which helps me understand government going forward, and it's a different animal. Definitely works differently than mainstream business. And it takes a little bit of time to figure that out, and I'm sure I haven't figured it all out, but it's important to understand that and to have that experience. Also, being in the district and me explaining the amount of agriculture that's in this district and how important that is to the Midwest and Illinois. I have a good foundation of agriculture. I pay the bills, I drive the tractor, I make the decisions, I see the issues, I read the articles, I see the reports. It's important to align and to understand, and we need more people that understand it in Congress to help support the Midwest. The other thing, and a thing that I think is fairly important, it is to me, and it is to a lot of people that I talk to, is that I live in the district. Mr. Vancil does not live in the district, and even though that's acceptable, he does not live in the district. And I feel that that's important, and I've talked to many people that also feel that's important. How can I represent the district that I don't live in? I've lived here for 27 years. I have served in this district and my county and surrounding towns in a service attitude. I want to continue to do that. I want to be a voice for the 17th district. I want to make sure that your voice is heard, that I'm open to listen to you and figure out what are the most common sense, forward-moving decisions we can make. So that's why I'm running. Get out and vote. I don't disagree at all with that. We have to drive that through. President Trump has been talking about how important this midterm is for Republicans to retain the power in DC. We need to step up and be a part of that. Get out and vote. Talk to your friends and your neighbors. This is a group effort. And at the end of the day, the biggest question is, who can beat Eric Sorensen?
All right, let's hear it for both of our candidates today. And I was not provided a list. We do have some additional candidates that are here that have tables. Please, I encourage all of you to go to the tables and talk to them, get to know them. And thank you all for coming today. I have a couple quick announcements. This Friday, January 30th, we'll be attending the Melania movie at Showplace 16 at 7:15 p.m. Saturday, January 31st, from 12 to 2 at the GOP headquarters at 555 South Perryville. We'll be doing the 6th annual Valentine's for Seniors card drive. It's hosted by Senator Dave Severson, Winnebago County Chairman Joe Shirelli, and Sheriff Gary Caruana. And remember, February 21st, Lincoln Day dinner starting at 5:30 p.m., winnebagogop.com/Lincoln. For all events, be sure to visit winnebagogop.com/calendar. And be sure to sign up for the Winnebago GOP newsletter to get our text messages. Thank you all for being here.